Hello everybody, welcome back to the ASUS RG YouTube channel. It's JJ once again. We're here at the brand new launch for the 900 series chipset. As always, ASUS is at the forefront in terms of bringing us a whole slew of boards to take a look at, along with innovations that we've presented on the board. I've gone ahead and also brought along my cohort here in crime and giving you guys a little bit of a feature overview and breakdown on what we're bringing forth on 900 series, Mr. Chaynor. And we're going to go ahead and just dive into this and give you guys hopefully some of the information you guys are looking for about the new 900 series motherboards.
Awesome, thank you, JJ. My first thing is, I see 3 AMD motherboards in front of me. It's been a while since I've seen one. Tell us what the story is. What's going on here?
Yeah. So definitely, like I noted first, is that we've got the brand new 900 series of motherboards that have just been released. This is a brand new chipset for AMD that's been a long time coming. So previously you had the 800 series chipset, like 890FX, 890GX, and 880G. And these are the series of boards that are going to be essentially replacing those. Now, what's going to be different about this chipset as opposed to the previous chipset comes in a couple of different aspects. First and foremost is this is the chipset and motherboards that are best suited for AMD's upcoming Bulldozer or Zambesi based CPUs, so 8-core CPU support. Now, we did previously release information that let users know that they could have an 800 series motherboard, and through a BIOS update they would support that in terms of it was compatible. But with the 800 series, you might not necessarily maybe get the same overclocking potential or the full compatibility of what that CPU might offer. So if you want to get the maximum overclocking potential and overall the best performance, you're going to want to get a 900 series product, especially if you're looking to run 6-core or you're looking to run 8-core. Okay, so that's one big change. The next one is something that we actually have running live right back behind it, and that's right there. That's our 990FX Sabertooth board, and that's running 2 GTX 560 Ti's in SLI. So that's pretty cool.
NVIDIA SLI.
That's right. So very first time on an AMD chipset, you're now able to go ahead and actually run SLI, and even on some of our high-end boards, 3-way SLI, or even possibly 4-way SLI.
4-way SLI. Well,
yeah.
Before we get into that, though, it's a very interesting feature. I'd like to know more about that. But so these 3 boards, they're all coming out today, right? What do we have across these 3 boards that's the same?
Yeah. Well, of course, they're all based on the 900 series, but as part of the launch, we're going to have 2 focused chipsets. So there's going to be the 990X, which is represented here by our M5A99X EVO board, and then the 990FX, which is the flagship highest performing chipset from AMD, and that's represented by our Sabertooth 990FX and our Crosshair V Formula. And we're going to go ahead and jump into these and show you what's the differentiation points in terms of how they break down and who they're meeting in terms of the users that are interested in building an AMD system. Now, as far as characteristics that you're going to have that's going to be consistent across all of these, we've done a lot to spend time in making sure that a user, regardless of which board that they buy, they're going to feel like that they're going to have guarantees in terms of something that's going to be on every single board. So first and foremost, if we just use this board as just a point of reference, it's going to be actually our dual intelligent processors matched with our Digi Plus VRM. So this is a big one from us. We've been really focusing about promoting the best power delivery possible on a motherboard. And when we talk about power delivery, that's in relation to overclocking potential, relation to efficiency, and to the overall stability and the long-term reliability of a product. So for the first time, we're introducing pure digital power delivery across the board. So the entry-level EVO series, Sabertooth, and Crosshair V Formula all feature our Digi Plus VRM. Now, in addition to that, we also have other hallmarks that we've released on previous series chipset that we're also introducing on the AMD. The next one is going to be our Uefi. So a lot of people have been really, really happy with our Uefi implementation. A lot of the options and the flexibility, whether it's the mouse control, the easy mode interface, which gives you quick access to your information, boot priority, all kinds of really cool stuff like that. It's present on all the boards.
Uefi BIOS, Digi Plus VRM.
Right, and that's just the beginning. There's still going to be more that's going to be spread out through the entire launch and all the boards that we have available. Next one is going to be something that's a little bit hard to always appreciate, but it's something that anybody putting together a system definitely does appreciate, and that's going to be sensible design layout. And that hallmarks in 2 specific things. One, every single board will feature dual slot spacing. So that's important. Why? Because as we just discussed, we have SLI support now, right? And as part of SLI, if you take a GTX 560 like our DirectCU 2 card, it's an awesome card. It's a dual slot card, right? And you want the best airflow possible. you might get a design where you put this PCIe card here and then another one right here, and then there's no airflow between the two cards. So every single board's at a minimum going to have a space between the primary card and the secondary card. So that's definitely us thinking about the user. Next to that, all the boards are going to feature right-angle serial ATA. That's going to ensure that you have really clean cable routing, and also make sure that when you have longer graphics cards, that it's not going to impact the usability of the serial ATA ports. Now, focusing on I/O connectivity, a big plus as well is that all these three boards will all feature at least 4 USB 3 ports. So you're going to have at least 2 USB ports on the back, and then you'll also get 2 more USB ports via front header. And even the front header, it's us taking the time to make sure that the layout's been right too. Most of the chassis manufacturers that have released cases that offer front USB 3 offered here at the top. So that's a cable that runs down from the top and then would plug in here, very cleanly, effectively just drop down. Some of the other vendors have decided to put front USB 3 ports all the way down here at the bottom. And it's not necessarily the most sensible location because, one, the length might not be right, but of course if I have a longer graphics card, the cable might have to stretch over. It's just not necessarily that clean, that elegant.
So if I'm looking at this, like basically we're looking at the back of the computer here and the front of the computer here, and the USB 3.0, the front header comes down to about here.
Yeah, it would essentially just drop down very cleanly. You could just route it down, and bam, that's it, you connect it. So that's a nice plus. Another one is also going to be something subtle, but it's something that we're really proud about, which is going to be fan functionality. Every single one of our boards at least offers full manual fan control for both the CPU and for the chassis. And that's very cool because users that are looking to run like a dual CPU configuration where they have a push fan and they have a pull fan, and they have 2 of them, now can have full control over that. So they have a large amount of flexibility in being able to have the best performance, but also customizing the nose profiles to make sure that it's quiet in terms of its operation. And that kind of hallmarks some of the other functions that we have there. There's definitely a lot more in terms of also other specific functions that are going to be present across all of these, but those are some of the most consistent features that you're going to see on every single board.
All right. Before we really get into it though, I just have one more question. The 990FX, what's the difference between the 990FX chipset and the 990X?
The really big feature is going to be that it has more PCIe lanes. So with more PCIe lanes, that essentially just means that you're going to get the highest level of performance for when you're running multiple GPU configurations. Now, this is a very important point I want to make. A lot of people sometimes worry about always having to have a full by 16 slot for their graphics cards. The reality is that a PCIe Gen 2 port is going to essentially give you the same exact performance as a by 16 Gen 2 port. So you don't necessarily have to worry that because this board is going to do by 8 and by 8 in SLI that you're going to have diminished performance because our FX solution offers by 16 and by 16. It's just going to be focused that for those users that want the absolute highest level of bandwidth, they're going to get it. But that also gives us a little bit more flexibility in terms of maybe giving you more ports on the motherboard or ensuring faster performance for all the devices that are connected. But that's going to really be the biggest characteristic. Also, the FX is generally going to be a little bit more fine-tuned for superior overclocking potential.
Sweet. Yeah. All right then. So we're going to go left to right. M5A99X.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and
tell us about this. Tell us about this board. You know.
Yeah. Now this is our M series, so this denotes our mainstream series. So this is focused at really kind of the everyman's system that's looking to get a great AMD board. You know, definitely not breaking the bank, and have pretty much all the features that you're looking for. So we're going to go over definitely some of those aspects. As we discussed, you know, we've already got the Digi Plus VRM, we've got the Uefi, front and back USB 3. The cool part is even on this entry-level board, we're still offering you Sli support. So even at the beginning of the crop here, you're going to be able to run dual GPU configurations. So let's first just go with the slot layout. We've got a full by 16, Gen 2. We've got by 1, then another by 16. As I noted before, if you run the Sli configuration, it's going to be by 8 and by 8. Then we have one PCI slot, and then we have one more physical by 16, but that runs at by 4. So that's a great slot layout in terms of giving you a lot of flexibility. Let's go ahead and move over to the back I/O here that we have on the board. Really rich for what we are considering our mainstream series product. So we've got 2 USB 2 ports, PS2 for those guys that are rocking the older keyboards. We've got the Toslink and optical out. We've got eSATA powered, 1394 FireWire, 2 more USB 2 ports. In addition to that, we've got right here another eSATA port, non-powered, 2 more USB 2 ports, and we've got these blue ports, which are our USB 3. Now, something new that we're going to be featuring here on our AMD boards is we have a brand new USB 3 controller that we're utilizing. This is from AS Media. This AS Media USB 3 controller actually gives us superior performance than our previous generation USB 3 that were based on NEC. So you can even get faster read and write performance, as well as special advanced USB charging performance, so that you can take your Apple devices, take for instance, and be able to charge them in less time utilizing these USB 3 ports.
Oh.
So pretty cool. In addition, we have 2 more USB 2 ports, Gigabit Ethernet, and then HD audio. So pretty much you get every single connection that you could actively want right now. Moving over to the rest of the I/O. Now the 900 series chipset provides us serial ATA SATA 6G on all 6 ports and also supports RAID technology. But I just want to give you a little bit more support. We've also gone ahead and incorporated here 2 additional serial ATA ports for users that maybe want to keep these for the high performance, maybe SSD or mechanical hard drives, and maybe go with just basic older hard drives or maybe ODD optical drives. And then lastly, we just want to go ahead and do a quick port count in terms of our fans. So we've got 1 fan header, 2 fan header, 3 fan headers, 4 fan headers, and then 5 fan headers. So we've got a lot of fan connectivity available to you here in terms of setting up your system. And lastly, one cool aspect here that we have on our board that we also introduced in our previous series is we have these switches. So I'll go ahead and lift it up a little bit here. You can see we have one is the TPU and the EPU switches. So TPU is a pretty cool switch, essentially for first-time builders, guys that really don't know anything, looking to get better performance than stock. They can go ahead and just flip that switch, install everything, and when they first power on the system, it'll go ahead and automatically overclock their system. They don't have to do any type of end-user customization, doesn't matter what operating system they're running, that's it. And from there, they can get a quick and easy overclock.
Automatically overclock your system.
Yeah, at the flip of a switch, very easy. And then our secondary one is the EPU switch. This is more focused for users that maybe aren't interested in overclocking. We're going to run stock, but what it's going to allow you to do is the same thing with the flip of the switch. It will actually undervolt the CPU. It will not affect the frequency, so you get no reduction in performance, but it actually will supply less voltage to the CPU. So it'll help to extend its lifespan and reduce operating temperature as well. So pretty cool, pretty easy.
All right. So that's the M5A99X.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one we have up is the Sabertooth 990FX.
Yes, definitely.
Let's take a look at this.
Tough series has now been out for a couple of different boards. We first launched it with P55, then X58, P67,
Right.
and now 990FX. And we're definitely really happy about introducing Tough for the first time here on AMD. So first and foremost, in terms of the segment what you're looking for, Tough is usually focused at users that are stock in terms of their operation. They're looking for high performance, high reliability, which is of course matched with the 5-year warranty that the board offers, and the potential for overclocking. Most of the Tough users usually don't overclock a board, but at the same time, if they want it, they have that ability. But we still continue to focus on the fact that, of course, all the components here are independently validated in terms of meeting a military specification, in terms of the overall reliability. This is for our chokes, our MOSFETs, our drivers, and we were the first vendor to implement that. And one of the really cool aspects is for users that are really even interested in seeing to what extent we do this, is that if you go inside the box, there's something that's pretty cool that comes with every single board.
Aha. Certificate of reliability.
Yeah. So what this actually is this actually notes to you the mil-spec tests that the independent facility has gone ahead and completed on the capacitors, the chokes, and the MOSFETs. So it lets you know that not only internally have we taken our time to increase the temperature, the validation, and all the engineering that we do when we put out a Tough board, but somebody else has actually gone ahead and done all this, and you can see the documentation for it. And this is part of the reason why we were able to offer a 5-year warranty on the product. And we're still definitely the only vendor that's doing anything like this, so pretty cool.
Salt spray test.
Yeah. Now, in addition to that, of course, we have some different connectivity options available to the Tough, so let's go ahead and take a look at those here. So starting on the back I/O, you've got 2 USB 2 ports, the PS2, Toslink and optical, powered eSATA, 1394, 2 more USB 2 ports, USB 3 using the same AS Media controller we talked about before,
Right.
powered eSATA, 2 more USB 2 ports, 2 more USB 2 ports, 2 more USB 2 ports, our Gigabit Ethernet, and then our HD audio connection as well. So a whole bunch of I/O that's present there. When we move over to the serial ATA, same thing as before. We have 6 serial ATA, 2 more provided to us by an additional controller. And when we look at the board itself, you don't see it, but there's one really cool feature that's on here, which is called thermal radar. And now this board actually features 10 hardware sensors that are mapped throughout the entire motherboard. Now what this allows the user to do is just install our AI Suite 2 software, and they can actually see a full representation on screen of temperature points across their entire motherboard, real time. So whether they're gaming, whether they're overclocking, whether they're running a system at idle, they can see a full readout and know exactly what things are running at what temperature and in what zones. And how that's beneficial to them is that then from there they can make customizations. Maybe they want to add in another fan, they want to reposition something, they want to move something to get better temperatures, they can easily do that. And that goes perfectly with what we've done out from a layout perspective, which is, once again, fan connectivity. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fan headers. And of this, compared to the EVO board, a lot of these, with the exception of one, are all 4-pin PWM. So it allows us to have a higher class of fan, which has more operating pair variables in terms of adjustment and customization. Now, going to the slot layout, we've got by 16, by 1, by 16, which runs electrically at 4, another by 16, PCIe, by 16, PCI, by 16, and this one also runs at 4. So a lot of expansion, same thing. Crossfire and SLI, of course, is supported on the board, as you see running on that tough right there. And of course, standard to it, we've got the high quality VRM heatsink, which utilizes our Ceramix technology. Ceramix is an exclusive special coating technology which creates micro points of diffusion to help actually dissipate the heat from this VRM heatsink that's being brought up from the VRM components that are underneath it. And that's not only actually on this portion here, but also on this lower portion. Now, some people might ask, well, why would you also put it down here? And the main reason why is, of course, once you put 2 GPUs on here, you sometimes get a lot of additional heat that can go ahead and heat up this area. Now, we have our hard drives that connect actually to the serial ATA ports. And hard drives, as well as the cables, can sometimes be susceptible to integrity loss when they get really hot. And so that way we can help to kind of keep the temperature a little bit lower for the part of the motherboard that's passing all your information to your hard drives. So pretty awesome board with a lot of standout features, all the tough components, the drivers, the chokes, the MOSFETs. It's an awesome board.
Interesting design there.
Yeah, definitely.
So the last board we have is the Crosshair V Formula.
Yeah, Crosshair V Formula. So ROG, we pretty much now have gotten to the cream of the crop here, which we've reached our flagship. So ROG is focused at really, of course, first and foremost, enthusiast gamers, general enthusiasts, and guys that are just looking for kind of the best in terms of innovative performance. They want a lot of functionality in terms of giving you a lot of options in the Uefi to get the most overclocking potential. They're looking for a lot of expansion in terms of how they can set up their boards, the amount of GPUs that they can run, and then they're looking for usually more connectivity in terms of the actual ports. So let's first just go ahead and take a look at the basic ports and see here. And you can probably see a little bit something different, right? So here we've got 2 sets of USB 3. So whereas our previous boards were giving us 4 USB 3, we have 6 USB 3 here on total. So 4 on the back plane and then 2 via the front header, and all once again utilizing that newer, faster AS Media USB 3 controller. We still maintain the PS2 connection. We've got the clear CMOS, eSATA, 2 USB 2. We've got the Toslink and optical connection, 2 more USB 2 ports, Intel Gigabit Ethernet.
Intel Gigabit Ethernet.
Yeah, that's right. So we introduced Intel Gigabit Ethernet actually quite a number of boards back, first and foremost on ROG, with a focus once again about the gamer and about the general enthusiasts who want the best performance. The Intel Gigabit Ethernet is going to give you lower CPU utilization. It's going to give you better throughput, especially when dealing with really big files across gigabit networks, and overall better compatibility with a wide range of applications. That might be like TeamSpeak, Ventrilo, but it could also be stuff like VMware clients. That Intel really sets the bar in terms of network connectivity. We've got a white USB port. It's a little bit different also, because that's ROG Connect. ROG Connect is our exclusive technology that allows you to go ahead and have like a notebook or a netbook or like a tablet device connected to the motherboard, and it gives you full low-level access to the board. So you can power it on, you can turn it off, you can monitor it in terms of diagnostics to see how it's posting, how it's turning on. You have full overclocking potential where you can overclock the CPU. You can even overclock the graphics card now through Rog Connect. So a lot of really cool functionality you have available to you there. And then 3 additional USB 2 ports. And lastly, we have our HD audio with gold-plated jacks. The HD audio is a little bit unique though, and it steps into one of these next functions here, which is the Xfi Supreme Effects package. So this is a special agreement that we've made with Creative, and Creative allows us to take the software Xfi package and place that onto the board. So that gives us the THX True Studio software package as well as EAX support for games. So we're going to have the customization ability to go ahead and get the best sound performance and the overall best functionality. Oh,
looks like that. Yeah, we're good.
So I think one of the other departments was probably overclocking a little bit too hard. So we might have to check on that a little bit later. Okay, so moving over to the rest of the connectivity that we have here, we've got our 6 serial ATA ports, and then we've got 1 additional serial ATA port. But this one's special. This is an AS Media PCIe Gen 2 port. So this has significantly more bandwidth than a normal add-on controller, which is usually only PCIe 1. So we get much more performance from that serial ATA port. Now, as far as the expansion, we've got by 16, by 1, by 16, which is another by 16, PCI, by 16, and then another by 16. Now, this board is going to offer us 3-way SLI support. But the really cool feature is not only is it 3-way SLI, but through the use of an expander, which is a special add-on module, we can actually enable 4-way SLI.
4-way SLI.
Yeah, so an unprecedented function. So not only were we the first board to be able to give you SLI, then 3-way SLI, but actually 4-way SLI. So pretty awesome. Rounding out the rest of the connectivity that we see here, fan headers that we've talked about before, we took it up to the nth degree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I think that we've got 1 more on here, 8. So got 8 4-pin fan headers, so a huge amount of customization. Going with those fan headers, there's actually these little guys right here too. These are our optional temperature sensor probes. So a user can actually go ahead and plug a temperature sensor onto this port, and then they can put that header anywhere on the motherboard that they want, on a GPU, in a part of the case, and they can always know the operating temperature of that device where they put that sensor. So really gives these enthusiasts a whole level of control and monitoring ability not really available on any other product out there on the market. So it's pretty cool. Lastly, we round out just a couple of the basic things. So of course we've got the start, the reset button, quick overclocking button, just like we had in terms of the TPU switch. We've got some additional PCIe and power connections for additional power for when you're overclocking the system or have multiple GPUs that are present. You've got voltage read points for those users that are looking to get the accurate hardware level readings when overclocking. And then we've got cool little things like the Go button, which allows you to save a stored BIOS profile of an overclock, and you can go ahead and just quickly press it and enable that low level overclock. And rounding it out, of course, we have our impressive high quality heatsink that dissipates all that temperature when we're overclocking the board, and our extreme engine digi, which really allows us to push it to whole new heights when we're overclocking. So that gives us a little bit of overview on what we're looking at in terms of the new series of AMD motherboards from ASUS.
Great, you know, all 3 boards, and we see that they all come out and they all have these different features, but also some of our, you know, legacy features.
Yeah, definitely.
Plus VRM, Uefi BIOS. Now I got a question for you. Which of these boards, if you had a chunk of change, would you be getting and putting into your system?
Oh man, that's a tough call, because I mean all of them are so feature rich, you know. And normally, you know, one of the call out functions is I love to run dual GPU,
right.
And usually that would mean I'd have to get one of these boards because one of them would only support 1 GPU. But with all of them at least supporting a 2-way SLI, that makes my choice a lot more complicated. If I had to pick though, I love the Intel Gigabit Ethernet on here.
Right.
And I love the Rog Connect where I'm a diehard overclocker, but actually I like to use it because I have a little netbook externally, and I have it there set up, and it allows me to monitor all my temperatures, so I don't have to have like a utility running in the center of my screen on my primary system where I can just see these are all my temps, this is all my readings, all my placements, so it'd have to be ROG for me.
So that Intel Gigabit LAN, that really does make a difference?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, if you're running really big file transfers, so me, I've got like a gigabit network, and I'm transferring a lot of files from like my HTPC. Like a normal recording on an HTPC might be about like 6 to 8 gigabytes. So when you're transferring 4, 5, 6 at one time across your network, you could sometimes see a 20% increase over a non-Intel adapter on a board. So definitely for utilizers that are power users, have a high quality network and transferring a lot of files, you can see a big difference from it.
That's great.
Yeah, very cool.
So, that's all the questions I have for you. Did you have anything you else wanted to
Yeah,
go into?
awesome. As always, we'd like to end the little recap here with what we're actually running, allow users to actually take a look and see what we've been running here in the background. So first and foremost, once again, we've got our tried and true Demus Tech test bench here. We've got our brand new 990FX Tough motherboard, of course, that we just showcased. We've got 16 gigabytes, all right, of Corsair Vengeance DDR3 1600 memory. We've got Corsair's brand new H60 closed loop CPU cooler, as we can see, cooling down our system. We've got 2 GTX 560 Ti NVIDIA graphics cards running in SLI, our DirectCU2 additions. Powering the entire system, we've got Corsair's 90 plus gold PSU, the AX 850 watt. And then of course, we've got our beautiful 27-inch ASUS 1080p monitor. So that kind of rounds out the system configuration for those guys that are interested. And running lastly here, of course, we've got our Corsair P series SSD running the operating system. So as always, thank you guys for stopping into the ASUS ROG YouTube channel. If you got any questions, comments, feedback, definitely leave it on the YouTube page or head over to asusrog.com/forums and leave us any questions, comments, and concerns. Thank you.